You're watching Chicago Bears Now. I am your host, Harrison Graham. You can follow me on Twitter at HGrahamNFL. I have Bears updates over there and will all week leading up to Week 17, or the wild card round against the New Orleans Saints. All right, good start, Harrison. Trade for Carson Wentz. Let's get into our Bears rumors roundup. I'm going to give this one to Smokin' Jays. People are definitely talking because for a couple of reasons. One, Carson Wentz wants out of Philadelphia. That's the most important thing here. I would be floored if he's an Philadelphia Eagle next year because his relationship with Doug Peterson and really the franchise at this point is beyond repair. That will not be reconciled there in Philly, so they're going to look to move him there. And on top of that, the latest betting odds have the Chicago Bears as the second best odds to land Carson Wentz if he is indeed traded. The Indianapolis Colts remain, of course, the favorites there, but the Bears are right behind them, the New England Patriots, 49ers, and Denver Broncos. And what do most of these teams have in common? They could or they do need a quarterback, and that could apply for the Bears depending on how they feel about Mitchell Trubisky after the playoffs this season. So trading for Wentz, it could definitely happen. We'll just have to see this offseason. Now, if you don't like betting on specific games, what I just showed you, that's what's called a futures bet. If you can bet on like Super Bowl MVP, those odds are out right now. You can bet on, not yet, but the league MVP next year. You can bet on NBA Rookie of the Year, NFL Rookie of the Year next year. Those type of things, you can bet on those odds. You can bet on all kinds of stuff with Bet Rivers. That's the point I am trying to make. Get going with our friends over there at chatsports.com/betil or chatsports.com/betin. You can, of course, bet on the Bears wildcard game this weekend, Bears heavy underdogs. You'll get a 100% deposit match when you sign up for up to $250. And then you can place a bet if you are either in the state of Indiana or in the state of Illinois. So for you Indiana folks, chatsports.com/betin. Illinois folks, chatsports.com/betil. Sign up and deposit from anywhere, but to place a bet, you must be within state lines of one of those two states. So when it comes to Carson Wentz, and if the Bears should trade for him, this is interesting because for me, he simply costs too much money as of now. Now, could he restructure his deal like Nick Foles is willing to agree to? Maybe, but I don't know that he would do that. If he were traded, this is what a new team would have to take on over the next 4 years. $25.4 million in 2021, $22 million in 2022. 25 million in 23, and then 26 million in 24. There are opt-outs. You can release him after 21 for some salary cap relief, but you're still going to eat a decent amount of it there. Average of about 24 or 25 million over the next 4 years. Last year, that would have sounded great with how he had played. After this season, I am not so sure that's something I would personally do if I'm the Chicago Bears or any other team. Now, do you want to trade for Carson Wentz? Type T for trade, type D for don't. Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section. Do you want to trade for the Eagles quarterback? We'll make this the pinned comment on today's video, so if you get hit with the ad break, go ahead and cast your votes right there. As of now, with that price tag and what he did in 2020, I'm not ready to go there. Guys, he was bad this year. There's no way around it. Now, do you think you're going to get the Carson Wentz prior to 2020 or the 2020 version? That's the question these franchises are going to ask themselves, is if they can get him back on track, because he was considered for sure a top 10 quarterback and in some eyes a top 5 quarterback. I wouldn't have put him quite in the top 5, but top 8, probably. He was playing that well. Now, there were injury concerns, and that's certainly always going to be a thing with Carson Wentz, but his contract is simply too much. Like, I can't give a guy basically $100 million over the next 4 years based on what I saw this season. He would have to be willing to restructure his deal a little bit. And now maybe it's one of those deals where 2021 he makes his full $25 million, but if he doesn't reach certain thresholds, you can cut him for not that much of dead cap hit. Maybe something like that could be in the works, but it just wasn't pretty in 2020. He costs a lot of money, and hey, the Bears don't have a ton of salary cap space. We don't know what that number is going to be yet, but considering we don't know the NFL cap number yet, but it's not going to be a ton of money, so keep that in mind when you think about if you want Carson Wentz or not. Now, pick one of these two options. Would you rather re-sign Mitchell Trubisky, type MT, or trade for Carson Wentz, type CW? Because if you trade for Wentz, remember, $25-ish million per year. Re-sign Trubisky, maybe 10 to 15 million per year, depending on what happens. Let me know what you guys would rather do. Type MT for trade or re-sign Trubisky. Type CW for Carson Wentz. Maybe a little cheaper for Trubisky. Depends how he plays in the playoffs. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Sticking with the Eagles players that could be available, how about signing Zach Ertz? Just one smoking J on this one. It's barely true. It could happen, but it's unlikely because, number one, he's got to be available first. He is under contract with Philadelphia through 2021, so it's not like this is just a guy you can go sign once free agency starts. Now, he had an emotional press conference on Monday, thanking Philadelphia and saying how he wanted to be there, so he thinks he could get released, which he might because the Eagles are in terrible cap shape, way worse than the Bears, and could cut him to save $5 million after an injury-riddled season. That very much could be a possibility. Here's what Ertz had to say in his exit interview after the season. I think this city is the best city to play for, and I couldn't have asked for a better experience. The city means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all of you. That does sound like a guy who probably expects to be out after this season. Now, maybe Philadelphia could explore a trade, but after being banged up, played in 11 games, but was banged up for most of those as well, wasn't as productive. Maybe part of that's the quarterback play, obviously, with Wentz and Jalen Hurts, but I just don't know how likely this would be for the Chicago Bears to actually get in the mix. It's intriguing if he becomes a free agent. Definitely not trading for him, though, if I'm Chicago. Now, if he's released, would you want to sign Zach Ertz? Type S for sign, type P for pass. Remember, one of the premier tight ends in the NFL before this season, and he's only going to be 30 next year. It's not like he's 35. I still think he has some good years left, so type S for sign him or type P for pass. You look at kind of the future of tight end. Obviously, Cole Kmet, he's come on as of late. He's done some good things. He hasn't done enough to say, oh, this guy's just going to be an absolute beast, but I think you feel pretty good about his future. Jimmy Graham, I think he's done all you could ask for this year. He does have 8 touchdowns, but he's getting older. He can't block at all. And outside of the red zone, not a huge impact guy at this point. And you can release him to save $7 million. So I think the idea of if Ertz becomes a free agent and you cut Jimmy Graham to save $7 million, could you use some or all of that $7 million to go sign Zach Ertz? Then you got a 1-2 punch of Ertz and Kmet. That's pretty fun to me. That's definitely an upgrade from Graham and Kmet. As solid as Graham has been, especially in the red zone, and I think he's had some leadership attributes that he's brought to this football team as well. A healthy Zach Ertz with Cole Kmet, that's a fun 1-2 punch at tight end, and that's very quarterback-friendly for whoever the quarterback is in 2021. Now, I promise you this, if the Bears sign Zach Ertz, trade for Carson Wentz, do anything wild this offseason, we're going to make a video about it. We'll probably even be live breaking it down for you guys, so hit that big red button and subscribe for the latest Bears rumors, news, breaking news, and a whole lot more throughout the NFL offseason. Go ahead and subscribe today. We're closing in on 20,000 subscribers. Now, let's take a look at the Smokin' J rumor meter real quick here for those of you not familiar or if you couldn't remember exactly what those mean. 0 Smokin' J's means it's fake news. It's not going to happen. 1 Smokin' J, it's barely true. It could happen. Not super likely. Maybe it gets up to 2 Smokin' J's eventually. That means people are talking. It's 50-50. Who knows what could happen. 3 Smokin' J's, pretty likely. I think there's a good chance of it happening. And then 4 Smokin' J's, bear down because it is going to happen. So with that in mind, was Mitchell Trubisky exposed against the Green Bay Packers? You got to give this one 3 Smokin' J's. I warned you guys heading into that game that while Trubisky looked improved and looked better, it was against bad defenses. All of a sudden in a big game under the bright lights against a better football team, he wasn't bad. He was okay, but he definitely wasn't the same quarterback we saw in the month prior to that. He fell back to earth. There's no way around that. Did some okay things, hit the one deep ball to Darnell Mooney, but overall, stretching the field has been a challenge for him throughout this entire season. Look at this stat line. 33 of 42, you're like, damn, that's accurate. It's only 252 yards, though, and one of those was for 53. So he had 32 completions for less than 200 yards in this game. What does that tell you? That tells you that he's not taking chances. That tells you that he's throwing most of his balls within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. He struggles throwing the ball down the field, guys. Don't just take my word for it. I've got the evidence. I've got the advanced next-gen stats that people throw together on Twitter because they film study this thing deeper than I do. Look at this, guys. Look at this passing chart for Trubisky this year. What's the red all tell you? Down the field throws, beyond 10 yards. He's below average. That red column means he's below league average. Yellow means he's within league average, which I guess over the middle, beyond 10 yards and before 20, he's league average. Underneath, he's great. He's actually better than most. He is very accurate on those bootlegs, and that's what I've commended Bill Lazor for. The play action, getting him on the edge, hitting the tight ends in the flats, the slants, those type of things. Trubisky's really good at that. But when he gets behind in a game and he has to get some big throws downfield, the accuracy wavers. He doesn't hit those throws, which limits his ceiling as an NFL quarterback. Jacob Infante took a deeper dive into this as well on Twitter and said, look, 10 to 19 yards, only 37 of 66, 56%, 1 touchdown, 4 picks. That's just 10 to 19 yards. That's not even deep throws on those. 20-plus throws, he's horrible this season. 5 for 30. 5 for 30, guys. League average on 20-yard throws is 50%. Now, obviously, that's not exactly 20-yard throws. That's 20 and beyond. But still, you're looking for 35 to 40% on typical deep throws, and he's 5 for 30 beyond 20 yards. That's not what you're looking for if you are an NFL starting quarterback. Now, all that being said, I'm still acknowledging that Mitchell Trubisky has done some good things since being reinserted into the starting lineup. He deserves credit for helping rally this team and improving this offense. This offense did nothing with Nick Foles against good and bad teams for the most part. So let's be fair on that. I'm not saying go back to Foles for this playoff game or anything like that. I just think you guys need to be aware of some of this stuff heading into 2021. Do you want to commit to this guy long term? Some of you guys I know want to. Some of you guys don't. I'm okay bringing him back short term, but I'm not throwing this guy a 4-year deal. I've seen enough that would suggest his ceiling is limited, guys. Can he be a bridge starter? Yes. Do you want him for the next decade? I don't think so. Unless something drastically changes, Mitchell Trubisky is a guy that you can win with, but you won't win just because of him. That is the difference between guys like him and guys like Aaron Rodgers who, hey, he's had horrible defense a lot of the time in his career, and they win 10-plus games a year because he is that incredible. Now, do you believe in Mitchell Trubisky? Type Y for yes, type in for no. It's an open-ended question. Obviously, there's a lot of variables there. For the long-term future, I got to type my in for no. I think you can do better, and you need to do better if you're going to win anything substantial. That being said, I hope he plays well in the playoffs, and I wish him the best in the future, and maybe that still is in Chicago. Let's keep it rolling here on our Bears Rumors Roundup. How about the Bears firing Chuck Pagano? I'll go 2 smoking Jays. People are definitely talking, and I'm starting to get on board with you guys. A lot of you guys don't like it. Fan-sided threw this idea out there as well that they need to cut bait with him. Bears Twitter hates Chuck Pagano, by the way, and I can't really blame you guys. Now, I don't think it's fair to be like, oh, Vic Fangio is way better. Like, it's 2 different guys. Like, it's 2 different seasons. 2018 is 2018. This is 2020. But the Bears defense, especially the second half of this season, has not been that good, and there's no aggressiveness. There's no adjustments. Chuck Pagano is the king of drop 7 and bring 4. He never blitzes. He never mixes it up. It's always the same vanilla defense, which when you have the best of the best, you can line up most of the time and be pretty effective. But in today's NFL, where the rules are all favored toward the offense, the athletes at receiver are too good to guard, you have to take chances. You have to bring extra pressure. You have to drop 9 into coverage sometimes, not just 7. You have to give them different looks. Chuck Pagano doesn't mix up his looks. He's the king of dropping 7 and bringing 4. And against Aaron Rodgers, that was a terrible idea. The one time he brought pressure, they sacked him. Why not do it more? He's going to have to be aggressive if he wants any chance to beat the Saints on Sunday. As far as firing him, you may want to go in a different direction on defense. I could see Pagano being the scapegoat of this average football team here in 2020. Should the Bears fire Chuck Pagano? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Go ahead and cast your votes in the comments section. Honestly, I'm okay if they do at this point. Get a new voice in there. I don't think he's bad, but he's definitely not great, and the lack of adjustments is troubling, especially when you have injuries. Got to take some chances. He hasn't done that nearly enough. All right, our last one here, then we'll move on here. Targeting Mike Borgonzi as the GM. That is, of course, the Chiefs' Director of Football Operations. I'll also give this one to Smoking Jays. People are talking. I threw him out there as a candidate when we did our Ryan Pace replacements video about a month ago when we thought the Bears season was bursting into flames, and now they're in the playoffs. Go figure. But Mike Borgonzi is a guy that has a connection to Matt Nagy, number one, because Nagy was in Kansas City just a few years ago, as you guys know. And Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune has said that he has two sources who are unrelated to one another, so two separate individuals have thrown this idea out there to him that, hey, they are interested in Mike Borgonzi, and they should be, right? When you're looking at a new GM possibly, and Ryan Pace should be on the hot seat still, by the way. Obviously, they're not going to make a change until the season is over. But when you're looking to make a change, you should look at teams that have done really well in recent years. Mike Borgonzi has been Brett Veach's right-hand man, the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs. Why not take a look at him? Here's what Brad Biggs wrote up recently about this, saying, look, Borgonzi's a name I heard, and if the Bears were considering hiring a new GM to work with their current coach, of course, Matt Nagy, he's someone who could come in and have a pre-established relationship with Nagy. Because you guys know, in the recent reports, Nagy's coming back next year. I know you guys don't like it, but that's just how it's going to be. Matt Nagy is going to be this head coach next year, barring something unforeseen, a.k.a. he steps down, a.k.a. the Bears lose by 50 to the Saints, and the Bears front office changes their mind. I think he's back in 2021. I still think Ryan Pace should go, though. Someone needs to go, and it can't just be Chuck Pagano. I think Pagano should go, and Ryan Pace should go. Mike Borgonzi, someone who Matt Nagy knows, someone who he can connect with. I think that's a really good idea. And beyond the Nagy connection, he's been working with the Chiefs. He's been working with Brett Veach, arguably the best general manager in the National Football League over the past few years. I like this idea. I think it's a great idea. More than anything, I want Pace gone. So spam F in the comments if you want Ryan Pace fired, because I think that is something we could all agree on.